Willkommen, bienvenue. I hope you were drumming along to that as much as I was. As usual, I have in the remote studio Hamish McLay of Search Convey. Myself, I'm Gareth Wax, and together we often discuss all things IPSA related. IPSA is the Independent Property Search Association, and of which Hamish is currently chairman. But we often have other members on, past members, and also people who can give a bit of insight into the stress and the strains that a personal search agent undergoes. And we often talk about why having working with an IPSA member can be so beneficial. But today the topic is partnership perils and promises, which is really make or break if you choose the right partners. Welcome, Hamish.
And good morning. Sorry, we've turned afternoon.
We've blasted through the morning. We're now sitting just above the noon. This is the time when most people get their thinking caps on while they're chomping through their sandwich.
Oh, let's help them enjoy their choc a bit then. Yeah, I mean, today very, very fortunate because later on today, part of the work, part of the enjoyment in terms of the work that I do is meeting up with so many other partners, because the IPSA organisation itself, our Association of Independent Property Search Agents, some people have been working together for over 20 years. Now, IPSA itself is celebrating 20 years of operation, but it's a cooperative. It's a collective of people with individuals. So we work almost as a partnership. We work in turn for each other. I mean, I can do the work for somebody who's up in Newcastle, who's has a client who's about to buy a property in Oxford. Doesn't happen very often because prices in Oxford are a bit hairy. But it could be Liverpool. It could be down in Wales somewhere. It could be down on the sort of south coast. There is somebody there, and we work in partnership. We're not competing with each other. There's enough business out there for all of us anyway, and that really is a wonderful partnership. And I mean, the thing is, one of our founders, who should have perhaps been on this morning if she wasn't driving down from the north, who was actually one of the remaining founders, who's still actually sort of we actually sort of have a consultant on the executive board. But that partnership is really the partnership that we have with each other helps us evolve and grow. And to add to that, because what we've got our conference, which starts later on this evening. We've got a nice drinks reception, which, as many people know, I'm rather partial to, and something to eat, so we do a bit of networking, and we have some of our presenters and sponsors attending this evening as well. So it's a really it's going to be a great day.
With you've got some new sponsors, I believe, as well there.
Oh, new sponsors, and also one of the greatest things I like as well is we're going to be speaking about new products, the availability of new products.
Wow.
Now, one of the great things, we've always been well supported by the providers of environmental searches, and we've got a couple of sort of insights to some new aspects that are coming on that particular sort of side. We work and of course there's a realization, obviously these sponsors, they come along and they work with us for good reason, and they do end up being partners because they've enabled us to evolve and grow our particular sort of business. And as I said, the environmental people particularly, we've got a company who we've got an innovative sort of idea sort of coming through on insurance, because insurance is very important in our local searches. But the beauty of it is, because we've got the environmental one, we've also got the estate agent perspective coming on board later on today as well, where our members can find out all about WigiWam. There's WigiWam. If you're at the conference, you'll find out exactly what it is.
WigiWam is something I think could potentially be a game changer for people in property.
Oh, Very, very much so. But we will speak about that another day. We do have our property matters coming back, so that's always good
Yes,
for another.
can we talk that up a little bit? So Hamish and I used to have another channel. This one obviously is focused on IPSA, so we're going to talk a little bit more about why partnering up with someone from IPSA can mean that you are actually not just partnering up with someone from IPSA, you're partnering up with the whole association, because if they can't cover an area that you want to cover, they will pass it to the right person. So you always get the right people for the right job. And we also we need to mention again, of course, you're having your is it an annual general meeting or
annual conference? Yes,
annual conference.
General meeting. We had a mix of all sorts of things last year, which were quite.
I know. I was very proud to have been there. I met lots of IPSA members. They're really lovely people. I don't know whether that comes from being members of IPSA or just that nice people are drawn to being in IPSA, but they all were very lovely and were supportive and happy to meet me. It was great fun. Great fun. But this year, you're splitting it between a sort of drinks reception, a bit of food, and then the next day, what is it? You're going to have
this main conference. But the great thing is, it's that networking opportunity, meeting up with people. A few new people are coming in, and some of the presenters too. And it's just to get. The thing is, I mean, people buy from people.
Yes.
Because we're going to be buying in products to resell to other people by working with these appropriate sort of partners. But actually getting down to know them on a personal level. As we well know, I mean, one of the great innovations that came about as a consequence of the lockdown period was it enabled meetings of this particular sort of nature much more readily possible to put them online. Whereas prior to that, it was tough. Whereas these days now, I don't know how many different channels you can actually sort of use to actually sort of make your presentations. There's loads and loads. Whereas initially there was a one which semi sort of struggled, but now it is. I mean, some of them are just so darn clever, it's unbelievable. But it's much easier for all of us. However, that can give one part, and I think it does add when I actually sort of think back over the years, and my partnership with the telephone was, I had to walk 100 yards. They were yards in those days. They ought to be yards again. There's bloody Europe, for heaven's sake. But I had to walk 50 yards to the nearest phone because it was in a phone box.
Right.
You didn't have, you barely had them in sort of buildings, never mind sort of. So anyway, so that was a partnership with a phone, which sort of obviously is extended for the better. But it is actually meeting up with people. But what is sort of quite interesting, I think what is important is to make sure we do it with the right partners. The thing is, we don't have a business partnership. I mean, sometimes we'll sign up agreements with some of the people who are actually helping us out. Right. They enable us to actually what our partners and labourers to do is to provide a full service, which is absolutely sort of great. And when I first got involved, I thought this idea of a one-stop shop, because solicitors at that particular time were buying different products. They get in touch with a water company, they get in touch with an environment agency, get in touch with the local council. And these days it's become even more sort of complicated. In actual fact, what makes it possible now is that one-stop shop and makes all the products available. One of the great things about the independence, we've mentioned this before, is we can offer anything just about from anybody that any solicitor may need, particularly if it's search associated, but it does go beyond that. It does go to the anti-money laundering. It also adds various aspects to whether it happens to be different types of searches for different parts of the country. Do you need a coal mine search, a China clay search?
Well, the environmental searches that you're bringing in through this third party, which is effectively a partnership of sorts, and they are enabling you guys to maintain relevance, I guess.
Oh, absolutely, and they actually develop And they've recognised the quality of IPSA members. They do realise, because we are able to collect the data from the local councils firsthand, that we are in a unique position, because independent search people like us actually have been working with these councils, some people since the last century, to be perfectly honest. Not that IPSA was there then. However, there is this recognition both of the quality and the level of a service we can provide with the data that we can actually extract and use, refine, and actually sort of present on behalf of our clients. So, and it comes from all of these different sort of people. However, it's worth bearing in mind, there have been people in the past, and we thought, oh, well, this just seems a great idea. And it makes an interesting comparison, because this particular company, they had originally been, well, the people that formed the company had originally been ambulance chasers working for the claimants, of course, from accidents, particularly vehicle accidents. And they were advertising, if you like, solicitors aren't business builders per se. And now they are changing now. They are updating, but basically they do their work. It's a bit like me. I'm not a salesman. I do my particular work relative to searches and collaboration work. So it would be useful if I did to actually get a salesman. Perhaps I ought to, actually. It's a good way of increasing business, isn't it? But anyway, another story there. So what it was, the way if you like, the sort of corporates, this is how the corporates were established. It started, this particular one, they were ambulance chasers. They thought, hey, look, we've been able to put things in place to support solicitors and give solicitors work. Don't get me wrong, they gave the solicitors work. It was good for them. They thought, well, if we can do it for ambulance chasing type work, accident, covering for accidents, we can start working with property lawyers, and we can actually do it with conveyancing. We can set up this model whereby solicitors can get involved. They can actually buy, and we can actually provide all the products they need to do the searches, like they did with the ambulance chasing bits and pieces. So that's how it all started off. And these guys were really, really good. But unfortunately, what happened over time, because it became such a good idea, and then, of course, we had, some of you remember the wondrous HIPS, home information packs, good, bad, or indifferent, didn't really matter. They came, and the result of their arrival, it attracted more ambulance chasing types.
Right. Yes. Yes. Inexorably. Yes.
As a consequence of that, there was massive competition. So the thing to do was to drive prices down. This is the whole sort of thing. That was the way of competing, not improve quality. That wasn't the object. Wasn't to improve the quality. The object was to gain business. The whole object was sort of. So they were chasing price. They were chasing prices all the time. So it was down. So when you look at when you actually start doing that, and you're requiring on volume to make profit, unfortunately, you cannot spend the time, particularly in this industry. I mean, you could in automotive, because I've worked there, and we actually did ways of it. You could engineer prices. In this particular business, a lot of people are using AI for certain things, but you can't take out the human element of certain aspects. Very often the AI, the artificial intelligence that's used, or the software that's used, it does need refining. So you can't take out the human element. But what it was felt with this corporate sort of type of thing, because they got a lovely list of all the people who worked all the areas.
Yeah, but the problem is half the data isn't all in one place, or even electronically all in one place. And you often have to know where to look and who to ask and how to build a good enough relationship that they'll help you find the information to help your clients. So we're not yet, and I think we're quite a way away from it. We're not yet, so that everything is encoded electronically.
Yeah, I think even with the acceleration of the way things are happening, the improvement, it's certainly not going to happen within 5 years. I would have thought 2050, yeah, be a good chance, which is about the same time they'll sort the cladding out by, if they ever do. But that's another story as well. We've got to
Did
keep.
Did you say 3050?
Do you remember that record? It was crikey, somebody in Evans in the year 2525.
Oh, yes, I do actually.
It wasn't 2025, but anyway, yet another story creeps into our conversation. But what happened?
What I'd very much like you to do is summarize why knowing who your partner is so important to ongoing relations.
Right. What actually sort of happened? Too much competition crept in. This particular company, within that construct, which had now changed, they needed to find a better way of doing it. They tried to pull the price. So basically, they came away from those original agreements and they dropped the price. They wanted you to do it for, 20% less. Then it was 30%. Then it was 50%. And some people, because it was the only way they were getting any business, went along with it.
Right.
And that messed up so many other people. If you want to do something professionally, something of value, you need to pay a reasonable price for it.
Right.
So if you want quality, so what can actually happen? You start out and you're not actually dealing with a quality situation.
Right.
And unfortunately, that client puts you under pressure. They're paying less money. There's more pressure. You've got all this high volume. It really is a very, very difficult scenario. Whereas if you work with value, if you work with a value provider that isn't determined on sort of, if they're not determined on making massive profit out of you, you don't need to actually put ridiculous prices into your client. You can focus on the value that you're providing because you've got all of these different products along with a service side of things to provide. If you do that, your client has got somebody to work with directly, and it puts value in it for that client. They can rely on the information. They know there's not the level of pressure. It can save, not only does it save time quite significantly, a minimum of 2 weeks normally, but it does actually sort of save so much with so many, because things can go wrong. Additional information can be required because, first of all, it's been refined. The solicitor's not taking too much time on it, but also because the information is more accurate, there's very rarely any queries. But should there be a query, it's so easy to get in touch with the person that carried out the search, and they will actually resolve that with the client, saving the solicitor, saving that property lawyer even more time in the whole process. And that comes about by working with the right partner, because you're not part of a stat, you're not a number, you're part of a working relationship producing value for the both of you.
I think the most important word in that sentence is relationship. And on that note, I want to thank you, Hamish. Thank you so much for at least hammering home this concept of working partnerships rather than just being a number. I'm Gareth Wax. Thank you so much for your time today. Try and keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and for goodness sake, work with the right partnerships. Take care. Bye-bye now until next week.